Hi everyone. So Notion database is a very essential part of Notion. So when everyone started, like you see a lot of people using like different database, like tables, galleries, lists. There's so many different things that it looks very interesting, but then it can also be very overwhelming. So today I want to try to demystify Notion database and then try to use a bit more fun and tongue-in-cheek way, like to kind of explain how it kind of works. And of course, I'll be showing like a step-by-step guide as well, how you can actually create a database and how you can actually use it in a more practical sense. So first of all, like if you actually played Pokemon before, so this Pokemon is called Ditto. If you don't, it's okay. So basically Ditto is a Pokemon that actually can transform into any other Pokemon that it wants. I think it can transform to human as well. So essentially, like in this case, you can imagine Ditto can transform to like Pikachu, can transform to Charmander, Bulbasaur. So it can just transforms like to whatever it wants. So in this case, a bit similar to Notion database. So in our case here, you can imagine the database here, we have a table. Of course, not literally. It can be like Excel tables or you use Google Sheets. So in this case, your table, it can be a list, a checklist. But then your table can become a board as well. So a Kanban board like Trello. Or it can become a timeline. So you keep track of all your timeline's important milestones. And then it can also become a calendar. So keep track of your calendars, kind of like Outlook, Google's. And then lastly, it can become a gallery. So how does this make sense though? Like, how can my table actually become a list, become a board? At the same time, it still remains a table. So yeah, it's a bit confusing, like for beginners at first. But this is the power of Notion. So one example, that use case that I always give to my business customers is that, so imagine someone that's actually used to using Excel file, right? Excel tables. So they like the structure of table, it makes more sense to them. But then maybe for a salesperson, sales team, they prefer more on a Trello Kanban board style, like move your milestone, your status along the way. So in this case, both of you can use the same Notion database, but then in the different views. That's what it's called. So different ways of looking at things, different ways of looking at data. So in this case, the admin will be using a table, and then the sales team will be using a board. And maybe, I don't know, the operation team, they will use this as a checklist. Just a tick, 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 everything's done. So how can this actually combine into one cohesive Notion database? So I'm going to show you in the next section, slash, and then you can go down and scroll and find until you get the Notion database, or you can just type database as well. So you can just type data, they will obviously just come up here. So we have a few selections here. We have inline, database inline, database full page. So what does this mean before I go into the rest? So essentially inline is just, if you click it, means that it will create in your page. So my page right now is database 101, right? So if I select inline, means you just create a database inside here. Next, if you use database full page, so essentially you'll create a new page for your database here. So database full page, let me kind of rename this. So does this mean that this is not a page? Not really. So database inline, just type it out. If I click expand here, right, so open this full page, it becomes a full page as well. So it's just a matter of how you want to display or you want your database to look like. So in this case, I can even turn this database into page. You see, it's the same thing now. And I can change this into inline. So that's kind of how it works when it comes to this. So I have another video to explain between like the pages, database, workspace thing. So I'll link it in the description below. So that hopefully can help you as well if you have some questions, doubts on that. But today our focus will be on database. So let me just delete this database first. Let's just delete this and delete this. Okay. So let's go database again. So as I mentioned earlier in the earlier examples, so we have table view, board view, gallery view, list, calendar, timeline. And then have something called link view of database. So I'm going to explain this later, but for now, let's just go with table view, something that everyone's familiar with, and then just table. Let's call this a table. This is a very straightforward table here. Normally people track, maybe let me kind of see what we track. Maybe have like a status. And we can call this more like a, let's just call this invoice tracker. So this is our table that we want to track for invoice, right? And then what do we need for invoice? We need the cost, so the cost, and I can change the number format to, let's just use US dollar, since it's a universal concept. So maybe I just do some invoice here. Just type in 1, invoice 2, invoice 3. Okay. So it's very simple. So we have invoice here, we have status here. So status basically just kind of see like, oh, is it in progress? Is it done? So yep. And then we have the cost here. So it's a very simple invoice tracker. I'm pretty sure everyone that's watching this video already know how we can do this. So what can we do with this invoice tracker, right? So as I mentioned earlier, like as an admin, like users, they will prefer more like a table view, right? This is more suitable for them. But let's say for invoice, you want it to be in a different view, right? So I want it to be in a Kanban view. So I want it to be a board view. How can I do this? So first, you obviously can create a new database. So I want to select board view, and then they'll ask you which one you want to select. So you can select invoice tracker, and then plus new empty view, and then automatically they're already suggesting you to use the board. So if you can see in this case, so we have the same invoice but in a different structure here. So we have invoice 1, invoice 3, 1, 2. If I kind of move around, right, you see that this is actually being updated in real time. So that's the beauty of Notion. Like in this case, we're actually using the same database. We're not creating a new one. You know, like, it's transforming, but we're actually using the same data, but just people looking at different views. So in this case, you can imagine like this will be more for like a sales. So it can remain just like a sales. And then this one is more like admin view. So that's kind of how you can do it. Of course, then another way you can notice already that there's a plus button here. You can just click plus and create a new view as well, like a board. So this is actually where you can select different kind of views for your use case. Yeah, but for now, let's just delete this. So I hope this gives you a bit more sense like how they are connected. And then even for board here, like Kanban, so we kind of want to see the cost, right? You can actually use this 3 dot, and then properties, and then costs, and then just come down here. So this is the cost. So essentially you have the information in one place. And then next, maybe I want to have a date, right? So I want to have a calendar on, you know, kind of view on when is my payment. So this could be like a manager, they want to have like an overview on when you get the payment. So maybe this one's like a target payment date, target payment. So for example, now, and then another cool way you can do is just copy this database here. It's like copy link, and then I'm just gonna paste it here, and then create link view of a database, and then select empty view again, and then this time we're gonna select calendar. So in this case, the manager, imagine it, he can kind of have an overview of all the invoices in the calendar view, and I can have the property as well, just status, and then with the cost. Right. You have the status and then you have the cost. So you can have like a bird's eye view of everything, what they want. Maybe just do the full width so you have a bigger view of it. Yeah, you can. As imagine like a manager, right? You come in and just kind of see, oh, okay, so we're getting payment here. Oh, maybe there's something this is being stuck here for a very long time, so I can kind of see. Or for example, this is like an overdue date, right? Maybe this one. Oh, it's already overdue date, but this is still in progress. So what's going on? So this is kind of how the manager can actually kind of view the overall progress of it. And then the fourth view that we can have, let me just do the same thing again. So I already copied earlier, so I'm gonna paste it again, link view, and then I'm gonna select empty view, and then select checklist. So checklist, you can use it more like, so normally I kind of prefer it when it's a list, right? It kind of doesn't really stretch properly. So I'll prefer kind of do this thing like just 2 columns, and then you just do it at the side here. So you can see like it's a bit more like a properly, like it kind of arrange, adjust it properly. And then you can even just put the calendar like just side by side here. Of course, this is my personal preference, but this kind of view, like you can have a list view here. This is where you can see all the invoices as well, like in a list format. So in this case, you can have an overview, but then at the same time, like, I probably don't want to see anything that's done, right? So this is when where the filter function comes in. So you can do filter and then status, and I only want to see everything that's other than done. So you can just change the status to is not, and then done, and then just save for everyone. You can see. So I was always be able to see invoice that's actually not done. So I kind of go in and see what's the problem. You know, sometimes people might write down comments here. So this is a very good way to collaborate. Okay, And then the next view that we have is, let me just do this, just paste again, create link view. So if you notice right now, it's actually all of these things that we have here is actually just the same database. It's the same table that we have. Everything's linked together and it can be in different pages. So for this demo, like, I'm just gonna see how powerful Notion is in this case. So let me just change this view again. You can click this here around, edit view. And then I think my face is blocking it. Let me just move it on the left side. And then table. And then we can use, I think the one I use is timeline. So I don't normally use timeline, but this is probably more like a project planning, a milestone tracker thing. So this is another way of you can look at it as a calendar. So you go scroll through your timelines, kind of see what's your project, what's pending. And you can even adjust it, like drag it off, like you can update the dates here. So you can see this is actually being updated as well. Once you drag it, automatically it's actually longer because it expands to like a few days, right? So this is timeline. And then last one is actually one of my favorite views in Notion. It's actually called gallery view. So you can see this is a gallery. So you can imagine like a portfolio view, right? You can see like different views. And here it's still the same thing, like you can still go inside here and see it. In this case, you can do the same thing as well. Just filter it, status, and then maybe it's not done, right? So it's still in progress. That's how you kind of see the database here. So yeah, these are all the views that you can see in Notion. So the next part I'm going to tell you is, I guess there will be a later, is that how you can actually use this in a cohesive ways, or actually just an actual use case that I actually built for my customers that I'm going to show you. But before that, maybe just go into each of the properties in Notion, just kind of give you some sense of what is possible. So for properties, I always like to just go back to the Notion database, so the table. So just, I guess, more like a transparent, easy to understand. So in this case, let me just go with plus. So here, there are a lot of properties in Notion right now. They actually keep on adding new and new properties. Oh, this is a new one, Zendesk ticket. So I never used this before, but just kind of show you, I think today I will show just the basic functions. I wouldn't go through the AI features or Google Drive extensions, but just the basic one. So here we have text. So text property is probably very self-explanatory. Once you create it, you can just type in any text you want. So that's it. It's very simple. And then next we have number. So number is quite interesting. So it can be simple, but then also like a very good ways to visualize data. So if you click here, right, edit property, and then you can select bar. So it can become like a progress bar. And then you can select ring. So similarly, like it's just a different ways of looking at data, and then you can choose the color as well. And then you can even do more like a US dollar. You can do more like a percentage. So this probably makes more sense, like a bar, you have the percentage, right? So of course you don't just use it straight like this. Of course there are ways that you can use, there will be more advanced features when you use row relation to kind of track the progress of your projects, for example. So this is number. And then we can have select. So select is basically a drop down. So select 1, select 2, select 3. So in this case, select is you can only select one. And then there's also another called multi-select. So it's the same thing, but just like you can select multiple options here. So select 1, select 2. So in this case, you can select both at the same time. So if you come from Excel or Google Sheets, you probably have one question. It's like, oh, can I have a, what do you call it, like a dependency? Basically, based on the selections from, if I select one, right? So you can only select one. So it's like it will change based on the drop down that you select. So that's actually currently not possible in Notion. And I don't think there's any like quick workaround for that. So it's probably like a design system wide thing that you kind of have to do it. But yeah, there's currently no ways you can like go through around this one, unfortunately. And then we have status. So status is what I already have here as well. So basically with the status here, they automatically just populate not started, in progress, done, and then you can add on your own status. So planning. Also for status is a bit weird that if you want to add on new one, right, you need to edit property and then just do it here. So planning. So you can kind of move around here. So what does this to do in progress complete means, right? So it doesn't really affect on this side, but it does affect the filter when it comes to, for example, you want to filter status 1. So you can see here we have the to do in progress complete. So the idea is just that if you filter for in progress, right? So anytime in the future you add on new status that's under in progress, it will still work for the filter. So you don't have to kind of keep on changing the filter. So it's more like a work, what do you call it, quality of life changes things that is quite helpful. And then we have dates. So I think this one I showcased earlier is just very simple, straightforward. But another thing is just for dates that if you select a date, so you can actually select end date and start date. So you can select when is the start date, so you can update it. So this one thing. Another is that if you install the Notion app, so you can actually put like a reminder, like maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes before the event. So you just receive a notification in your phone to get a reminder for this task. And then next one we have is person. So person is a very interesting one. So essentially, if you have multiple members working in Notion together, so you can select person and then assign it to them. So in this case, you will receive a notification as well because you're assigning to them. And then that's kind of how you can work. So assigning to people, and this will be under them. And then another thing for a person as well is quite useful is when you do filter. So you can actually filter by person, and then you can use filter by me. What this means is that, so I'll only be able to see anything that's actually filtered under me. So if another person come in, right? So let's say a lady come in, like, so if she come into the same page, but she only see her own tasks. So it's very easy, like you don't have to create multiple database here, like multiple views, just have one and then just filter by me, then that's enough. But one thing to note as well is this law when newcomers try to use Notion as well, is that filters, you cannot lock it. So Notion does have a things called log database. I think log page here. So you can lock the page. So in this case, once you lock it, right, so you can't make any changes, things like that. So a lot of times people might think that they want to share with their customers, they want to just filter for the customers' invoice, right? So unfortunately, that's not possible because even when they are filtered and when they're locked, they can actually still delete the filter or they remove it. Of course, it will still come back once they refresh the page. But in this case, we cannot hide information from clients by using filter. So it's more like an inter-team usage function in this case. And then the next one we have is files and media. So this is where you can upload any files you want. So if I'm not mistaken, so for the free plan it's actually 5 Mbps. And then for the paid plan, if you use that Pro and above, I don't know what's the limit, but I've tried like I think 1 GB of files. But that's more for testing. I wouldn't recommend using this for like large files, like at most probably like a 10, 20 MBs, because it's a bit slow when it comes to upload. Which makes sense. They are not claiming to be like a Google Drive thing. And then we have checkbox, which is really self-explanatory, just checkbox here. And then it's a very cool thing you can do with checkbox. You just can go until the end, and then can just hide the information here. I want to make it smaller. And then this can be done for other columns as well. In this case, like you can see this is a limit here. You can't go to the end. So what you can do is actually very interesting things that Notion still kept it, is that if I turn this in the checkbox, right, I can do it like this, and then I'll turn it back to files and media. So files and media, you can see it's actually files and media right now, but then just that the column is very small. So this is like a fun trick. I guess it's quite useful as well, kind of consolidate the information, make it smaller. And then we have URL. So same thing, just put your URL. The good thing about URL is just that you can actually just click it and then automatically open a page for you. So compared to like maybe like a text, right? Maybe to it like this. I think I can kind of make it as well, but maybe the link. I think you can potentially link it. Yeah, you can, but it's not the best way to do it. And then next one we have is, let me see, email. So email address, same thing. You can put your email here. So, yep. Note that it doesn't quite validate it, but same thing. Like if you click it and then you can just set up and send email. That help you. I guess I prompt you to your Outlook, your Gmail, whatever you're using. And then formula. So something that I won't go into details for today, but just very, very brief, because I do have a list of tutorials on introducing like the new formulas, and then there are resources as well on where you can learn it. I think it's called Thomas Frank Formula Notion. Yeah, I think he has this one. So this is more for like a 2.0 cheat list, but on his website, there's very extensive guides on explaining all these formulas. So yeah, that's it. So for formulas, if you come from like an Excel background, it's very similar on certain extent, but then there are things that it can't quite do as well. Or if you want to do it, it's very different from what you would be used to in Excel. For example, like VLOOKUP or SUMIF. So there are ways you can do it, but it will be very different compared to Notion, compared to Excel, but it's definitely possible. But in this case, like you can just reference different things. For example, you can do the cost. If I reference cost, just cost here, and then maybe I can do like times 2. So they automatically just do the formula calculations for me. So this is where it's kind of similar. But again, I'll link the videos on the Notion formula guides in the video, so you can go through it on another time. And then we have relation and rollup. So I'll leave this to last. Let's go through this first. So we have created time. So it's very simple. So basically, this is when you create this database. So when I create this item, right? So we show the item, the time that it's been created. And then the same is for created by. So this is when who is the person that create this. So you cannot change this. So these are not changeable, which is quite good, like just for making sure that people don't edit it. So we have last edited time and then last edited by. So similar things. When was the last time you edited this, right? So this will be updated. And then last is the last edited by. So who's the last person that edited this? So you want to have like an audit trail, kind of see who is the last one responsible to edit this, then it's possible. And ID, this is quite a new addition from Notion. So basically, each of the database items that you create, there's a unique ID for it. So you can even do some like a unique things, like you can give like a prefix. So, and one thing to know about the prefix is that it's actually included across your whole Notion workspace. Means that because I've used DC for my business invoice ID, so I cannot use the same actually. So I can use DCE and I can add prefix. So everything will become DCE 1, 2, 3, 4. And then even if I delete this, right, and I create a new one, say for example, I delete this. This is number 1. I think so. Okay. If I create a new one, right? So it will not become number 1 again. So it will. Why is it not showing though? Do I need to type in something here? That's interesting. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not showing. But ideally it should be showing. Update prefix. There's probably a bug here, I guess. Yeah, this is showing. I'm not sure why this is not showing, but this is probably supposed to be 5. But I can see that the 1 doesn't come back anymore. So it just disappeared forever because it's somewhere in the database, but we won't be able to retrieve it since we deleted it. But it will always be there. So this is like a very useful tool when it comes to IDs. And then the last 2 things that I tried to avoid earlier is relation and rollup. So I don't want to go too in depth into this, but I can show you what this could potentially be used. So basically what relation and rollup means is that it's trying to connect 2 databases together. So in our use case here, all examples is just 1 database. It's probably not very realistic. Like in the actual use case, you probably have a lot of database that you want to use and you want to link it together, stuff like that. So let me just delete all of them. I think let me just start over. So yeah, let's start over now. So imagine you have 2 databases, right? So one database is maybe, I don't know, project dashboard. I want to kind of track what's the status of my project. And then another database is called my projects. So this is where I have, maybe like project task then. Okay. This will be my projects then. So let's say we have project 1, project 2, project 3, and then now these 2 databases, they're actually not speaking to each other, right? So what we want to do is we want to make them connect to each other. So in this case, we can use create new and then relation. So I want to link it to project task in this case. So I'm going to select project task and then just select show on project task, add relation. So what will happen is that, let me just delete this. If I create a task here, right? Task 1, task 2, task 3. I can actually link it to projects. So I want to just link it to project 1. I can kind of copy it and then paste it here. So you can see it will appear in project 1. So what is actually the use case here? Why do you want to kind of connect them, right? So let me just do a checkbox here. So if I do the task here, so I kind of see this is completed for project 1, right? But maybe I would like to have an overall view of how many tasks has been completed. This is where rollup can come in. So rollup, typo here, rollup, and then select project task, and then property. You select checkbox. So I kind of want to see what's the status of checkbox, right? So in this case, by default just show original. So it means you can see we already have two checklists done here. It's quite good already, but maybe you can make it better. Check, you want to select percent check, and then select progress bar. And this is where you can have a progress. So in this case, you just do progress. And that's where you can see like once you complete it, just go to 100%. If not, you can see automatically. So we have like a bird's eye view of all the projects that's being tracked here. So that's it for today's topic when it comes to properties in Notion, so database. But last thing I just want to show you is an actual example use case of what I have built for my customers. So here's actually an actual example use case that I built for my customers. So basically they have one same database, but they have three different departments that are using this. So it's the sales department, the admin department, and then the lab or the operation department. So once you go in the sales pipeline, right, what they're going to see is all the leads that they have been tracking here, and then what's the things that have been using by the teams. So there are different views here. So the idea is that if I create leads, right, so job 1, so when the first leads came in, I'm a salesperson, I want to kind of track my leads, and then we'll see the meetings booked, I'm going to call them, I'm going to contact them, and then inside there are a few checklists that I can use, but then essentially I can just type out the things I want. You can put an image, before and after works, so any context that you want. And once the lead is being confirmed, so I send an email, I confirm this, okay, this is the lead that I want to send a quotation to it. So I'm going to drag it to quotation, it'll just disappear. So in this case, job's done for the salesperson, at least for this stage. And then the admin team will be going to the admin role, admin page, which is a database like I mentioned earlier. And here they have the new sales page here. And then they'll follow up on the remaining things they want, like the dates, the quotation number, the reference number, the material code, things like that. So this is where they have follow up on the admin side. So once the payment has been done, right, so in this case, they'll do like confirm. I'm pretty sure it is confirmed. Okay. And then they will go to the lab team. So this is where the lab team will be able to see the task that will go in here. I think it should come in here, but it's not quite working. But the idea is that once it's being paid, it will just come in here, and then lab will just follow up through. So in this case, the information will not be lost. It will be the same thing again and again, like, so you can add on the things that you already work on, and then, but it's just the same stream of line. So this is something that Excel cannot provide you, and something that is very powerful that Notion is capable of doing. So yeah, it's a very long video for today. I hope that you find some values in it. So let me know what other things that you would like to know more, like in terms of maybe you want to know more in-depth on Notion database. Of course, there are a lot of things I didn't cover today. For example, templates, automations, formulas. Yeah, just kind of let me know. And if you like my videos, just please like and subscribe. And thank you. Have a nice day.